Twitter account. They talk about all the derogations they're making, which effectively are allowances for doctors to go and work in certain health departments and kind of effectively break the strike conditions. The Sun, though, has a very different take on this story.
That's right. So in the sort of days leading up to the strike, it was all about money and whether the doctors, the junior doctors, those resident doctors would get pay rises of around sort of 29%, and the government holding out and not paying that. But what we've got this situation with is that cancer tests were needed, and there were 6 men waiting at Milton Keynes Hospital for this. Now, the BMA said this didn't reach that high sort of threshold that was needed to break that strike. But one, as the Sun on Sunday says here, one hero doc defies the pickets to treat 6. So he actually broke the picket to go and treat this. And Wes Streeting has hit out at the BMA today, saying the sort of anguish that is involved in knowing whether you have or whether you don't have prostate cancer or any type of cancer in that case is actually sort of unacceptable, and the actions of the BMA are unacceptable in that case. So where we had a lot of it was talking about money before this, we're now into that sort of briefing war, and this is one of the troubles is the government are expecting that this could run on until Christmas. You know, you could have junior doctors, you could have mid-ranking doctors, and you could have consultants all striking on one particular day, and I think that's the concern.
And the challenge for the junior doctors is that the government, under Wes Streeting, looks at them and says, well, we gave you kind of 28, 29% pay rise already. We appreciate that there's been pay erosion, but an awful lot has been done. We're prepared to look at other things, you know, whether that's how you pay for exams, whether that's working conditions, whether that's days off, etc. Junior doctors, though, at the moment, have a mandate for 6 months, I think, is it, to potentially strike?
Yes, but the problem is that what the BMA would argue is that pay increase wasn't across the board. So there were some doctors who received like under 1% in pay rise. It wasn't a universal 26% uplift, and they're arguing about pay restoration back to 2008. I mean, look, this is very convenient for Wes Streeting for this, you know, actually quite horrific situation to have unfolded and be reported in Milton Keynes. You know, this is the nature of strikes. You know, you have to take ugly action in order to achieve your goal, and collective action is sort of your only bargaining chip. You know, Streeting could have fended off this strike by continuing to hold talks that felt progressive or felt like they were moving in a progressive direction. He hasn't held those talks, and that's why these strikes will continue.
Do we think there's any kind of indication you could take from the situation in Birmingham and the bin strikes and the government's, you know, prepared to let that run on a very long time? It
feels like they are going to let this one run on as well. I just don't think they're going to give in to paying, you know, more than 20% to these junior doctors. Wes Streeting has adamantly said the money is just not available, and then you get the politics of it comes into this, because this all feeds into whether the government can try and bring down waiting times and the times that people actually have to wait for their appointments and treatments. So this is where, you know, one of the key sort of missions of this government is to bring down those wait times, and this adds to the problems.
Let's move on, shall we? We know that Donald Trump is up in Scotland. Yesterday, he was listening to Elaine Page whilst playing golf. Memory from Cats was playing on the loudspeaker from his golf caddy as he was avoiding those questions about Gaza, about Epstein, about, you know, wider geopolitics. Today, though, kind of a bit of the play gets put to one side. Ursula von der Leyen due to go and meet with the president, and so too Sir Keir Starmer, of course.
It doesn't really seem to be the Epstein questions. Sorry, it's the Epstein questions, I would say, that will probably worry Trump. I don't think he's too concerned about having to talk about Gaza, despite that. It was also Bridge Over Troubled Water, wasn't it, that was blaring out from the Trump motorcade yesterday, the golf cart motorcade. So Starmer will meet with Trump, and Gaza is going to be on the table. I mean, why wouldn't it? But not in any fashion that I think will appease many backbench Labour MPs who are arguing that Palestine needs to be recognised as a state, you know, yesterday, today, if not, you know, tomorrow is too late. That's not going to be on the table for discussion today. If anything, it will probably be a sort of gesture politics, quite light conversation around aid that needs to be dropped into the region, or the aid programme that is beginning. But in terms of actually moving into any sort of progressive negotiation, it's highly unlikely that will happen today.
And what chance does Ursula von der Leyen have, do you think, to get progress?
Well, she's got her own problems. You know, she's worried about trade war. She's worried about tariffs. You know, she's worried about the EU's relationship with the US. Trump is not particularly keen on the EU at this point in time. So, you know, unfortunately, I don't think Gaza is on the top of the list today.
What do you think the best way for Ursula von der Leyen and Starmer to go about this is? Is it to sit down in a room and have dinner with him, or should they actually get out on the course? Because you look at, you know, Trump and the late Shinzo Abe before he was assassinated, the Japanese leader, 5 rounds of golf together. The Finnish president, who wouldn't get 2 hours over dinner with the president, but did an entire round of golf together as well. You know, is there an argument that actually you kind of meet him on his terms, which I know many people would disagree with? But
I think if you look at it, you look at the tactics of what Sir Keir Starmer has done since Donald Trump came to power back in January. He's taken a very sort of softly approach to him. He hasn't engaged in sort of a to and fro when it comes to trade wars or really getting involved in any two big arguments. And I think the trouble is with Trump when it comes to golf is that no one in the British government can actually play golf. So I think we've got this issue where it'd be fantastic if Sir Keir could actually play with him, but I think that's sort of off limits because no one is actually sort of good enough. You know, you see Donald Trump playing golf; he can hit the ball quite far, but I'm not sure we're at that level with the cabinet in this country. But on a sort of serious note, I think when it comes to Palestine, I think we'll have to sit down with him, but it seems far off the agenda actually getting to recognise that. Trump has been dismissive of Emmanuel Macron's comments, and I think what Sir Keir Starmer sees, the recognition of the Palestinian state, is sort of a wider pathway to peace. Won't just sort of announce it in isolation.
And this just links us, doesn't it, actually, to a bit that's in the Express.
Yeah.
I think this is the Mail on
Sunday.
Apologies.
Yeah.
Yes, the Mail on Sunday, that they are basically saying that MPs will make sure that Sir Keir Starmer backs this Palestinian state, because the person who's really pushing it in government is the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner. Her power, and they sort of make this point that she seems to be the person who's keeping the Starmer government on track. Lots of Labour MPs are backing this recognition of the Palestinian state as well. And it feels like they are all coalescing more around Angela Rayner than they are Keir Starmer.
That line, the real PM.
Well, I'm not too sure how. Yeah, I mean, it makes a good headline. I'm not too sure how strongly that is actually, or true that is playing out. But I mean, certainly when you've got MPs like Sarah Champion putting together this letter of cross-party 220 MPs who are arguing for a Palestinian state. You know, despite Labour's moves just before the summer recess, where they were expelling certain MPs who had been quote-unquote unfaithful to the party, when you've got Sarah Champion being this outspoken, you know, how long can he actually hold on to the current line?
Time will tell. We'll see. Time will also tell whether we have success in the football. I know you're both going to be watching. I know we're going to have plenty more of that at the top of this next hour after a short break. Ava, Ryan, good to have you with us. Stick with us here on Sky News.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin.
The waters